Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we are diving into something truly spectacular. We're going to explore a magnificent piece of literature, the poem Bharat Our Land by the great nationalist poet Subramania Bharati. I've got to tell you, this text is just packed with energy. It's this beautiful, sweeping celebration of India's glory, culture, and spirituality. I am so pumped to guide you through this material because, honestly, it's not just a poem, it's practically an awakening. We're going to look really closely at exactly how the poet uses language, history, and physical geography to build this profound, undeniable sense of national pride.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to listen to this line. She's peerless. Let's praise her. That is a direct, powerful declaration right from the conclusion of the poem. I wanted to start us off here because this single line perfectly captures the triumphant, almost electrifying emotion of the entire piece. Peerless, right? Meaning completely without equal. Bharati isn't just saying, hey, I really like my country. No, he is boldly declaring that there is absolutely nowhere else like it on earth. So keep that unapologetic, fiery emotion in mind as we unpack the rest of this text.
To make sure we get the absolute most out of this, we're going to take a peel the onion kind of approach today. First, we'll look at the poet and patriot. Then we'll check out the symbols of a golden land, analyze the power of poetic devices, dig into the deeper meanings and wisdom, and finally, figure out exactly why this matters today.
All right, moving right along into our first section, the poet and patriot. Because to really grasp the gravity of these words, we first need to know the architect behind them. So, Subramania Bharati, born back in 1882 in Tamil Nadu, and let me be clear, he was far more than just a poet sitting quietly at a desk somewhere. He is widely known as Mahakavi Bharati, which translates to Great Poet, which is a massive title. But crucially, he was a journalist and a fiercely dedicated freedom fighter. Bharati literally used his writing as a weapon for national awakening during India's freedom movement. And he was smart about it. He deliberately chose simple, accessible language so his inspirational messages could reach everyone, sparking courage and unity like wildfire across the country. On top of all that, he was highly progressive for his time, actively championing women's empowerment and social equality. He was a true visionary who wanted nothing more than to see his country free and its people uplifted. Now that we know a bit about who Bharati was, let's jump to Section 2, Symbols of a Golden Land. We're going to examine the absolutely beautiful physical canvas he paints for us.
And this brilliantly illustrates how Bharati masterfully connects the physical and historical landscape of India to these deep cultural concepts. It's almost like a map of the nation's soul. For instance, he brings up the Himalayas, or Himavant, which, doesn't just mean a bunch of big mountains. In the poem, it equals unmatched strength and greatness. The Ganga River isn't just a body of water, it embodies purity and absolute generosity. Then he brings in the Upanishads to symbolize profound spiritual wisdom, and the Buddha to represent ultimate peace and enlightenment. By weaving all these specific elements together, he describes India as a golden land, a pure symbol of prosperity and beauty. He takes the physical geography and maps it directly onto the spirit of the nation. It's brilliant.
Which brings us nicely to Section 3, the power of poetic devices. Let's talk about how exactly Bharati crafted this piece to pull such a powerful, patriotic response from the reader. Let's open up his toolkit and look at what's inside. Bharati intentionally employs some very specific figures of speech here. He uses repetition, specifically a technique called anaphora, where he repeats phrases like "the is ours" to really hammer home this intense sense of ownership and pride. He uses personification, calling the river the generous Ganga, which gives nature this incredible human-like warmth. He throws in rhetorical questions to actively challenge the reader, and hyperbole, saying things like "there's no equal anywhere on earth," to just massively amplify the emotion. Plus, he paints with vivid imagery like the sunny golden land, and uses alliteration, think phrases like gallant warriors, to make the words literally bounce off the tongue. So you see, these aren't just fancy literary terms for English class, these are the precise, mechanical tools he uses to make the poem musical, emotional, and completely unforgettable. Now here's the detail I find really fascinating. Bharat Our Land doesn't actually follow a strict rhyme scheme. It's written in free verse. So you might be wondering, how does it still sound so incredibly driving and forceful when you read it? Well, it happens in 3 steps. First, through that repetition we talked about. By repeating key phrases, he creates this underlying drumbeat. Next, he uses parallel structure. By organizing his sentences in a symmetrical, balanced way, he creates a very natural cadence. And finally, through musical language, just consciously choosing words that inherently sound poetic and flow together. When you combine those three elements, it builds this massive, sweeping rhythm, and it does it completely without the need for simple rhyming words at the end of every single line.
Let's transition over to Section 4 now, Deeper Meanings and Wisdom. We are moving past the literal rocks and rivers, and past the mechanics of the poetry, straight into the moral heartbeat of the text.
So the crucial point here is the contrast between the literal and the figurative. Literally, sure, the poem is highlighting physical beauty, mighty mountains, natural wonders, the whole shebang. But figuratively, which is the true core of the poem, it's entirely about spiritual richness and moral greatness. Bharati is using the physical landscape as a tool to cultivate national pride and a really deep respect for ancient wisdom. He's essentially telling his readers, look, India is a sacred and noble motherland, and its true value lies far, far beyond just its soil and geography.
When we step back and infer the broader meaning, we start to see a really clear roadmap for a nation. Bharati is indirectly teaching us that India's true strength is rooted deeply in its culture and its spirituality. He's arguing that ancient knowledge isn't just some dusty history, it is a vital, active guide for modern society. He is practically begging citizens to feel an unwavering pride in their heritage, because at the end of the day, unity and patriotism are the essential engines for national progress. This isn't just a poem, it's a call to action designed to mobilize an entire society simply by reminding them of their inherent worth.
And that brings us to our final section, why this matters today. Because a truly great explainer doesn't just look backward, it has to look forward. So let's explore how Bharati's words apply to us right here, right now.
Think about this. How do natural elements like the Himalayas and the Ganga actually contribute to a national identity? It's an interesting concept to wrap your head around. But when a poet elevates a mountain or a river into a symbol of strength and purity, they transform plain old geography into a shared psychological anchor. They give a massive, diverse population something universal to point to and say, yes, that is who we are. It bridges the gap between the literal ground we walk on and the abstract, powerful concept of being one unified nation.
Which leads us to another really vital question. What values can modern youth actually learn from a poem written over a century ago? Well, let's be real. We live in a world that is moving incredibly fast, and it often feels super fragmented. In the middle of all that, Bharati's historical and patriotic tribute offers a serious grounding force. It challenges young people today to look past all the immediate, modern distractions and recognize the profound, enduring value of their cultural heritage. It teaches resilience, the critical importance of standing united, and maybe most importantly, the courage to be unapologetically proud of where you come from.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Do you think ancient wisdom is still relevant today? And if you do, why? Bharati clearly believed that the teachings of the Upanishads and the Buddha were timeless, that they were meant to be carried forward to guide our modern progress. So, as you go about the rest of your day, I really encourage you to think about the ancient wisdom present in your own culture. How exactly does the past inform your present? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on Bharat Our Land. Keep exploring,